I work in a medical records administration at a mid-sized hospital in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's not glamorous work. Mostly I sit in a basement-level office processing patient files, cross-referencing discharge paperwork, flagging inconsistencies for the clinical team upstairs. The kind of job that exists in the building full of people but somehow feels completely solitary. My department is just me and 2 colleagues, Priya and Dennis, and a supervisor named Greer who works remotely on Fridays. This was a Thursday in the deep part of autumn. About 2 years ago, Priya had taken a day off and Dennis left at his usual 5:15. I stayed behind because we had the quarterly audit submission due the next morning, and I was the one who had volunteered to finish it. That was my mistake in the grand scheme of things. Not because of the audit, but because staying late meant I was the only person on that floor. The basement level of the hospital isn't connected to the main wards. It's a separate administrative wing, records, billing, HR, a few storage rooms. The corridor is long and fluorescent lit, and the lights are on motion sensors after 7 p.m. to save energy. So as you walk, the section behind you slowly dims back to nothing. I always hated that, even before this happened. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It was around 7:30. I'd been deep in the audit for a couple hours. Headphones on, coffee going cold beside me. I took the headphones off to stretch, and there it was. This faint medicinal smell. Sharp, almost sweet. Like antiseptic, but not quite. It's a hospital, so smells aren't unusual. But our wing didn't smell like the clinical floors. It smelled like old paper and recycled air. This was different, and it was coming from inside the office. I figured it was the cleaning staff. They come through the basement on Thursdays. I didn't hear the carts though. Usually you could hear them from halfway down the hall. That rattling metal sound that echoed in the corridor. There was nothing. Just the smell. I told myself they were probably working lighter that night. I put my headphones back on. About 40 minutes later, I got up to use the bathroom at the end of the corridor. When I came back, my desk chair was facing the wrong way. I know how it sounds, I know. It was facing the door instead of the monitor. I'm a creature of habit. I always try to push my chair back and square to the desk when I stand up. It's an unconscious thing. Priya used to make fun of me for it, but I specifically remembered pushing it in before I walked out. The chair wasn't pushed back. It was turned 90 degrees like someone had sat in it and swiveled around to face the entrance. The seat felt faintly warm when I put my hand on it, and it wasn't square to anything. It was angled slightly, the way it would be if someone had stood up in a hurry. I stood in the doorway for a second, running back through the last hour in my head. I couldn't dismiss it confidently enough to let it go, which bothered me more than the chair itself. But I didn't want to overreact over what could still be nothing. I straightened it, sat down, and kept working, building settle. People misremember. I had an audit to finish. At 9:47, I remember checking the time specifically. I heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Slow, even footsteps. Not the rubber-soled squeak of the cleaning staff. Something softer, more deliberate. They passed my door and kept going toward the storage end of the hall. I took my headphones off and listened. Those sensors had never failed in the 3 years I'd worked that shift. Not once. Even when they glitched, they'd flicker, that half-second shudder before catching. But I heard nothing. No click from the panels, no flicker. Just dead silence where the lights should have been. I opened my office door and looked out. The corridor was dark from about halfway down. The lights that should have responded to whoever just walked past hadn't come on at all. The hall was empty in both directions. I told myself it was the sensors. Told myself it was the sound carrying strangely through the ventilation from the floor above. Old hospitals make noise. I went back to my desk, but I didn't put the headphones on again. I finished the audit just after 10:30. I saved everything, backed it up on the shared drive, sent a confirmation email to Greer. I was running on adrenaline by then. That specific kind you get when you've been in a quiet building alone for too long. Hyper-aware, startling at nothing, embarrassed at yourself for being startled. I packed my bag and pulled on my coat. Before I turned off the desk lamp, I walked across the hall to the records room to drop off a physical folder I've been working from. The records room is lined floor to ceiling with filing shelves, 2 rows deep, with a narrow walking aisle between them. I went to the correct shelf, slotted the folder in. I was turning to leave when I noticed that a few folders on the lower shelf near the far end were out of place. Not scattered, not messy, just handled, pulled slightly forward, like someone had been leafing through them carefully and almost put them back. And then I noticed the shelf itself. One of the units at the far end was pulled out from the wall maybe 6 inches, the way you'd move it if you were accessing the secondary road behind it. Those shelves are heavy. They don't move on their own. You have to grip the handle and pull deliberately. I stood there looking at it. The gap behind the shelf was dark. The room was quiet, and I became aware that the quality of the silence had changed. It had a weight to it that hadn't when I walked in. I should have left. I know that now. But something made me take one step toward it. Just one. And then the light from the overhead panel caught the gap at the right angle. There were eyes looking back at me. Not glowing, but catching the light wrong, reflecting more than they should have. The way a lens does, or glass. Still and human, and set deep in a face I couldn't make out. A body that wasn't moving, standing pressed into the darkness behind the shelf, like it had been there for a long time. We looked at each other for what I can only describe as a moment that had no business lasting as long as it did. And then I ran. Behind me, as I hit the corridor, I heard it. One shelf slamming down, then another. Then a chain of metal shifting and collapsing like something was tearing through the room to get out. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I was through the front doors. I drove home. I poured a glass of wine I didn't taste and called Dennis. He told me the cleaning crew had switched to Wednesdays 3 weeks ago. Nobody had told me. That medicinal smell, whatever it was, had nothing to do with them. Greer reviewed the corridor camera footage the next morning at my request. She called me around 11. The camera covered the full length of the hallways from 7 p.m. onward. No cleaning staff, no maintenance, no one entering or leaving the records room. Nothing. She also mentioned a gap. 9 minutes of footage between 9:40 and 9:41. Simply absent, not corrupted, not degraded, as if the camera had been paused by someone who knew exactly how long they needed. I think about the eyes most nights, the way they caught the light wrong. I think about the folders that had been handled so carefully, like someone was looking for something specific and didn't want to leave a mess. I think about what they were doing in the hours I sat 20 feet away with my headphones on, and whether they found it. I think about the chair turning toward the entrance, and how the seat was still warm. I don't know who it was, or how long they had been in that building, or whether they intended to do something to me specifically, or whether I was simply an inconvenience to work around. I only know that I was the last person to leave that night. The camera didn't show anyone else leaving, but it also missed 9 minutes, and I don't know who used them.